Well, it's a very good morning and a very good afternoon. And for many of you listening, it's a very good evening to you, to our US colleagues. Good evening. Welcome to the Coaching Cafe. My name is Natalie Ashdown from Open Door Coaching. And today we are looking at listening for the PCC level competencies. And we're looking at a coaching demonstration, the second half of the coaching demonstration. And I want to welcome to the line our Learning and Development Manager, Bridget Calvert. Hello to you, Bridget.
Hello there, Natalie. Thanks for having me.
And welcome everyone. We've got Sydney, Vancouver, we've got Brisbane, we have California, down the road in Melbourne. So lots of people joining us for the Coaching Cafe. Welcome. So before we begin, as always, let me acknowledge the traditional owners of the custodians on the lands on which we're all meeting today and their continuing connection to the land, the waters and the communities of Australia and all around the world where you might be joining us either live or you might be listening to this on your favourite streaming service. Welcome. Our podcast is huge. We have lots of people hooking into the podcast, which is really exciting. We pay our respects to them, to their elders past, present and emerging, and elders from Indigenous communities from all around the world. So our agenda for today, we're looking at coaching in action. We're going to listen and debrief real live coaching sessions. And if you are new to the Coaching Cafe, welcome. We're all about creating that community. We're all about having shared learning experiences, thought-provoking conversations together. And if you are a regular, welcome back. As you know, we love coming together and we love learning from you as well. So please feel free to pop a message into the chat box as we go along during our Coaching Cafe today. And we will be also offering ICF CCEUs live. So if you're listening to this live, then you can pick that up at the end of the session. So I am rushing a little bit just so we have enough time to listen to the second half of the recording and debrief it together. So let's recap. When we last listened to the first half of the coaching recording, it was just last week. You can pick that up off our blog. If you haven't listened to it, you can catch up. And we looked at core competency number 3, establishing and maintaining agreements. Core competency, ICF, core competency number 4, cultivating trust and safety. And we listened to, also we were debriefing core competency number 6, which was listen actively. In terms of a recap, with the coach and the coachee, we had explored the motivations of why this topic was really important to the coachee. And we explored who the coachee really wants to be in terms of their leadership. And Bridget pointed out to us last week that ACC level coaching is about thinking about what the coachee wants to achieve and moving forward with that. But as we move into PCC coaching and the higher levels of PCC into MCC coaching, we really want to think about who the coachee wants to be. What has this got to do with who they are, their leadership, and the difference they want to make in terms of how they show up. And so there's a lot of conversations around that, around this conflict that we were listening to and what that might means. You would have heard a really strong sense of trust and safety, the active listening that was allowing the coach and the coachee to go under the surface to elicit assumptions that the coachee might have been making, and most importantly, to elicit those beliefs that the coachee might be holding. And this is a really excellent demonstration of eliciting beliefs that are then getting in the way or they're barriers to the coachee moving forward. So that's what we really got up to. We also are going to now pick up the conversation where the coach actually asks, what would it be like if the coachee didn't have those beliefs? And the coachee describes that he would be confident. He'd be able to walk into the meeting feeling confident. If you haven't listened to the first half of the coaching conversation, don't worry. I think you'll get enough out of this second half to really think about what you're learning here and what the coach is demonstrating in terms of the ICF core competencies. But I really do recommend you pick up the first half. When we're listening to this recording. You can have the transcript in front of you that's available to you on our blog, and you can also have the ICF core competencies in front of you as well. We're going to be listening for 5, maintains presence. We're going to listen for ICF core competency number 6, active listening. We're going to be listening for core competency 7, how the coach evokes awareness, and we're going to look for core competency number 8, facilitating growth. Now, it's not going to be possible for us to debrief all of these things in just one short 15-minute conversation. So we're going to highlight some of the things after we listen to the recording that you might be listening for. And like Bridget and I really recommend you go back and listen to it more than once to really pick up those key learnings. Okay, so you're going to listen to the second half of the recording. We won't be making any commentary during this second half of the recording. We will turn our videos off. We welcome you to just be open to listen to the recording. And we also ask you to listen with being non-judgmental, because even myself, as I listened back to the recording more than once, I can hear where, as the coach, I might have pivoted into different directions. But what we have to remember is, as the coach in the moment, working with the coachee, allowing the coachee to lead the conversation, it's a coachee-led conversation. So there's different things that we could have done. And at the same time, let's listen without judgment, because in the moment, you're using your instincts about which way you might, what question you might ask next. And of course, we could all ask different questions, couldn't we? But it's about what is the coach doing from an instincts point of view in that moment. All right, everybody, I hope that sets us up for what we're going to listen to. I'll just pause for a moment as we actually set the recording going. Bridge, you can give us a thumbs up that you can hear us, and I welcome you to sit back and have a listen.
Oh, so let's just focus on you. Yeah.
Remove some of these, because it may be that these obstacles are largely self-created. They could entirely be beliefs. I mean, they may not even be real. I mean, he might just be being provocative. You know, who knows? Because I haven't actually had the confidence to talk to him yet.
Yeah, and it makes me think about, what if you embraced his provocative, because...
Yeah. And higher purpose, that clear.
So it is a what if question then?
I think so. And helping, you know, I think if I think of it like that, it'll help me to remove some of these, because it may be that these obstacles are largely self-created. They could entirely be beliefs. I mean, they may not even be real. I mean, he might just be being provocative. You know, who knows? Because I haven't actually had the confidence to talk to him yet.
Yeah, and it makes me think about, what if you embraced his provocative, because...
Yeah. And that would certainly be, because, you know, we want to have a diverse range of views on this, and this will be a long and expensive strategy to implement. So actually, huge advantage to have it, some provocative questions to sort of stress test it at the start. It would be stronger.
That's I could see that. How does that make you feel?
Well, actually, sort of reframing that around that, I can see a way of harness what comes across. I mean, what's led to this? I had an email first thing this morning from the person who's project managing this. So it was very good if we could harness that critical energy and use that to strengthen the project. But that feels now a very different prospect. I'm really liking that as a way of approaching this. Because going back to my beliefs, which I know, you know, are beliefs, but they're probably not far off the mark. much more likely to achieve the outcome we're looking for, which is that the project happens and happens well. So rather than sort of either bulldozing those beliefs that this other person has, or just sort of driving around them, better to harness them.
And you're harnessing, I'm just playing around with this idea with you. You're harnessing a powerful influencer who's super smart, super academic. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really excellent way of thinking about this. So I think that gives me actually a much better way forwards. There'll still be a conversation, but it'd be framed completely differently now. Because, you know, and again, one thing I've realised is that when I'm interacting with people who do like that sort of combat, that academic contest, you're much better off not to even get into that, because you end up with a winner and a loser. Whereas taking that approach, it's not about a contest anymore. It is, you know, and I can imagine the what if questions I could ask him. So it's not a challenge. It's just, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could use your many years of experience here and all of your insights and your expertise and blah, 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 you know, and I think that point about a powerful influence is key.
In fact, wouldn't it, not only would it be good, what kind of role do you want him to play that would actually drive, like would actually assist the project? It's giving him.
Yes. I mean, his position, having him not just sort of accepting it, but actually promoting this and driving it and being, you know, if that miracle happened, a champion for this, that would actually transform everything. This would no longer be an uphill struggle with just obstacles all over the place and constantly having to find ways of overcoming those. There'd be a real sense of a clear path with the shining light of the goal visible to everyone at the end, and the key influencers, who are the tribal leaders, actually supporting it. That would greatly increase the chances of success, and the people across the whole organization would embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, it's compelling. I'm wondering, you know, it's you've reflected on, you know, what's under the surface for you, which is I really want to acknowledge, because you've opened that up. I'm wondering and we've talked about what's important to you. What's important to him, do you think, as one of these tribal leaders?
Yeah. I think probably the need to feel importance and be recognised as importance. I think I suspect that one of the things here is that there's a lot of pride in what he does. There's probably, I imagine that there's probably some quite powerful personal emotions in this.
Yeah, and I like that, because you're thinking about, if I was to put myself into his shoes, what would be important to him, and I'm wondering also about what is he afraid of as well.
Yes, which would be a brilliant question. It'd be an extraordinary question, because he's the fearless. I know there's a cliche phrase, the fearless leader, but that's how he would see himself, I think. So if I could get him to open up or even think about, well, what are you afraid of here? That'd be a great coaching question to ask him.
Again, I can hear the nervousness or the hesitation.
Yeah. But that's actually probably the root of this. You know, what are you afraid of? And it's probably fear of losing things, status, reputation. I don't know what exactly, but probably sensible. I like what I have. I'm proud of it. I think it works. If you change it, I might lose something. Maybe it won't be as good, or no, I don't know. But I could imagine, so I'm probably not quite courageous enough to ask the "what are you afraid of" question, but I could imagine asking a question: what do you think you might lose if you supported this and we implemented a new strategy and looked 10 to 20 years into the future with what our education might like? We know what do you think you might lose, or we might lose, by taking that approach?
Yeah, and I was just wondering if you were to see him now as you saw him previously as a formidable opponent, but if you were to see him now as, a man at the end of his career with a lot of pride and a lot of achievements and a lot to lose, does that change anything for you at all?
Well, actually, yes, because I do think about people a lot, and I have a lot of empathy, and so I want, it's imagining it like that. So rather than it's just deeply unsettling for him, and could actually result in him worrying about losing what they currently have, that would be a really helpful reframe for me as well. I'd approach this conversation very much more sympathetically, and very much more with inquiry.
And again, yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
No, again, it's just that thought is a calming thought, because that's such a more constructive way of thinking about this.
So you mentioned, if the words you've mentioned are confidence, with empathy, sympathetically. Yeah.
Which is my natural style. That always feels most comfortable for me, because I think it always, well, for me, I think it gets the best results, because this is all about a person and how they're feeling and reacting. And so, I think putting yourself in their shoes, as you say, and just thinking how this might feel for them, I think is very important.
Seems a lot calmer to me when you say that. Seems like you say a lot more natural. Yeah. So how would you summarize then, Josh, what you're taking out of our conversation so far?
Well, actually, you've completely changed, helped me change the way I see this and think about it, from something that was really quite worrying and making me feel anxious, and was, in my mind, going to be, even though I wouldn't want it to be, it would end up as this struggle, this winner-loser, to actually looking beyond that and saying, well, let's stop this person doing this, to saying, well, let's understand why this person is doing this, what's motivating them, what's driving this. And then, so being in their shoes, and then saying, well, what if I could harness this person's seniority, experience, powerful leadership? What if that person actually, through having that open conversation, became a champion? And now the whole thing feels like an opportunity rather than a threat.
Mm. Oh, so let's just focus on you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, welcome back, everybody. I thought we would stop the recording there because what we've heard is probably enough for today to debrief in the essence of time. And also, so what happens next is that there's the coach wraps up in terms of the next steps to take, how will you approach it, etc. So you've probably heard the most of what we need for today's session anyway. So we would like to debrief this quickly, and feel free to put some messages into the chat box with us as well. And we want to think about this in terms of those core competency: maintaining presence, listening actively, evoking awareness, and facilitating client growth. And just so you know, if you're listening to this online, the silences are actually intentional. So there's pauses there that you'll hear. And also you might hear a couple of skips and a couple of jump overs. Don't worry about that, because they're actually intentional edits for privacy reasons. Bridge, let me hand it over to you just in the time that we have available for a debrief. What really stands out for you in terms of what we should be listening for with this recording?
Absolutely. Well, I'm madly scribbling things down as I'm listening to Nat. So the first thing I want to highlight, if we're going to have a look at each core competency 5 maintains presence. A lot of space was prevalent there, which is really great. And I like the way that you're actually responding to the whole of the person. So not only what the situation, but significantly who. As well. So the what and the who. You were really demonstrated curiosity to learn about the coachee and what was happening for him. And as I said, allowed for a lot of silence, pause, and reflection. So maintaining presence was really stood out for me through that session. Would you like me to continue to the next one, or would you like to make comment?
Yeah, no, continue on. Yeah.
Okay. Core competency number 6, your observations were directly customized, if you like, by using what you had learned about what your coachee was saying, about who the coachee was and his situation. I really like the way you were able to observe energy shifts as well, which is a really key part of listening actively. So you picked up on that a couple of times. So that was really key in terms of that listening actively. And again, using words that the client had used. You've picked up on words, you're feeding back what you heard, that active listening. You really allowed the space and stayed out of the space to allow him to think and reflect on what was happening for him. And also, you reflected back for an understanding, clarity of understanding. So again, listening actively and communicating effectively was clear there. The one that stood out really significantly for me was around evoke awareness. So that core competency number 7. Things like what if, that sort of what if you embrace the provocative, which was a really good reframe and an opportunity for your coachee to shift perspective. What if? And also harnessing, the word of harnessing and creating that new visual for your coachee as well. The other shift in position that I really enjoyed was what's important to him, do you think? So that shifting of position and what is he afraid of? So supporting your coachee to really shift positions, to look at it from a different angle. And you really ask questions to, I guess, shift current ways of thinking. So for the coachee to explore what they're currently thinking and feeling, you know, their beliefs and values and needs, if you like, as well as exploring beyond where they're thinking. So your questions shifted your coachee beyond current thinking. So they're really thinking and feeling about themselves as well as their situation and what that meant for them, which is really key to evoking awareness. You shared with no attachment to observations and intuitions, which is really key part of evoking awareness. If you were to see him now as a man, you know, I said ... pride, you know, with a lot to lose, does that change anything? I thought that was a fantastic question there. Again, supporting your coachee to shift position beyond where they're currently thinking to thinking of new evolved ways around the situation. So really brilliant evidence there of evoking awareness. And for core competency number 8, facilitating client growth, I enjoyed the way that you invited your coachee to explore their learning during the session. I loved the question actually, how would you summarize what you were taking out of this conversation so far? So, you know, a fantastic question there. You invited your coachee to really explore or consider how they would use their new learning moving forward. So really supporting taking some action. So facilitating that client growth beyond the evoking awareness, but what are they going to do now with that awareness moving forward? So a really great demonstration of competencies 5, 6, 7, and 8, really rich, full of evidence, is what I heard.
Yeah, thank you, Bridge. It's a really fantastic summary. And as I was listening to it again, probably for the 5th or 6th time, I was writing down that questions as well. So yes, I'm the coach, but I was actually writing down the questions that the coach asked, as I do every time I listen to your recordings as well. And I think what stood out for me is everything you've said, and the coach being able to use that space of curiosity without being attached. So the really nice thing that I noticed is that the coachee actually really embraces those what if questions as part of who he is as a leader. So the coach holding that for the coachee, it's like the coach is holding a light for who the coachee wants to be as a leader, using his actual natural tendencies and his words. So it kind of felt right, I remember in the moment, from an instincts point of view, to evoke awareness about the coachee using his words about who he wants to be. And I'm not sure if I'm making sense here, but it's those nuances of the maintaining presence and that was used to actually evoke that awareness.
Absolutely. And what's key there too is if you listen carefully, you can hear the change of tone and the energy in the coachee too when you present these what ifs and feeding it back in. It was almost like the confidence was building in the moment.
Yeah, and that's the critical thing about listening to what is being said by the actual coachee, but also what is not being said. Now, I was seeing him live uh, on the video when we were coaching. So, but it's what's not being said that is actually linking to who he wants to be as a leader in this situation. And honestly, it's a massive acknowledgement to Josh as well, because not only are we listening to the coach here and how we're coaching, but we are picking up so many lessons from the actual coachee himself. Like if we're experiencing a conflict within the workplace, wouldn't it be lovely to have a view of the world like Josh was able to explore for himself as a leader? So I was learning lessons from the coach, but I'm definitely learning lessons from the coachee. And why that's important is because when the coach is able to be vulnerable and open and maintain that presence, we learn from our coachees as well. So I thought, as we're listening to this recording, that's something else that we might be able to draw our attention to as well.
Lovely.
Well, everyone, please feel free to listen to the recording again, listen to the whole recording again with those ICF core competencies in front of you. And we're thinking about what can we actually learn across the core competencies. And if you're like me, I love writing down all the questions so that next time I have the opportunity to coach, if it feels right, I've learned something from the coaching conversation, and I might roll out that question if it feels right in the moment. So everything you're hearing is part of our Certificate 4 and our diploma, and think about how we can go under the surface to explore more with the coachee. So feel free to reach out to us again if you have any needs, or if you want your people to be coached. We're here to support and assist you. So with that in mind, everyone, thank you for joining us for today's Coaching Cafe. We hope you got a lot out of that coaching experience. As always, we say, please reach out if you need to. And as always, enjoy your coaching. So we'll say goodbye for now.